This evening, the program, I am your host. I'm Katie Catering, the General Secretary of the Teachers Union. This evening, this is our 7th session. Just give me 1 minute here. Okay, let me start again. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, Canadian Teachers Federation, Ministry of Education Summer Institute Series 2021. I am your host, Katie Catering, the General Secretary of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union. This evening, our workshop is being held under the theme, Strong Schools, Resilient Teachers, Embracing a New Era in Education. This is our 7th session, Planning an Effective ICT Inclusive Lesson, and will be facilitated this afternoon by Mr. Petrus Gomes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Mr. Petrus Gomes. Mr. Gomes?
Yes, I am here. Thank you for having me this afternoon. So are we ready to begin?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So I didn't get a chance to send in a little bit of on my bio. So I just mentioned that I studied in Duluth, Minnesota, computer information systems, and currently head of department at the St. Martin Secondary School. My passion is IT. I love IT. I especially love working with students and young children in IT, teaching them and so forth. That's brought us to the development of the STEM summer program. And I think maybe the first and only online institute for students here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is STEM Educational Institute. So with that, I would like to proceed and get straight to it. I am hoping that this session could be an interactive one. I don't want to be the only one who's speaking because I would like to get some answers and feedback from you guys. I know at the moment it's a very trying time, trying of patience, trying of keeping the frustration and the pressure level low. I actually have a few, teachers, friends and colleagues, have a little wine on the side just on the afternoon to just keep things down because of the whole online and what is happening. Some of you might be in the same situation too, but nevertheless, it is what is here, and we are going to try and see how best we're going to navigate it. And I hope what I have to offer is something that is beneficial to everyone. So I'm hoping to ask the question for you to ask questions as you move along. Please, I'm not so much into the chatting. So I would like you to unmute your mic from time to time to ask the question. If I notice that a mic is unmuted, then I will just stop, pause to hear the question, and then we can move from there. So just give me a moment. Let me organize my little PowerPoint here, and then we can proceed. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. So for today's lesson, today's session that we're going to talk about is planning for an ICT inclusive lesson. And I know, 1 second. I know that most of the time when persons hear about ICT, most of the time it boils down to putting up a video, a little PowerPoint, or something of that sort in a general context. That most of the time is what ICT is about for most persons in classes. But we're going to try to put a more rounded view on that so that we can get everybody to have a little bit more understanding of what it is about. Now, this afternoon, I have a few things that we're going to talk about. One, getting to know and understand your audience, which is very, very, very important in executing a proper ICT class, right? How to gather information on students, the tool that is needed to gather the information, and how to use the tool effectively. Understanding different OS. OS actually stands for operating system. So you're going to learn a little bit at the same time. Why is this important? And how to work around some of the challenges. And the last part is appreciate the difference between open source and proprietary application. You can understand why this is important and what are the options out there. Okay, so one of the things that most of the schools should do in planning and preparing for your ICT classes, which is mainly what we are operating right now in the environment right now. One of the main things that we had to do, or we should have done, I don't know if it is done in some schools, but in majority, you can tell me, how do you know your student technical capability? Because if I can recall well, when the COVID hit our shows, it was an abrupt pause, and we just went straight into online. So I don't think we had an opportunity to really assess how well our students were with different devices. Now, we would have seen them using the devices to watch videos and everything like that. And I think somewhere along the line, we automatically assume that they will be fine in the online. How do I sound there? Give me a feedback there. Colleagues, teachers, give me a little feedback there. How did I mention that? Am I correct? Am I wrong?
I think you're correct, Patrice. Good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daniel. Anybody else share any different sentiment or the same sentiment? Please feel free. Quiet group.
I agree with you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Huggins. Thank you. So we did not have the opportunity per se to gauge how well our students would have been able to adapt to the online, right? Now, and I'm gonna just share with you, please bear with me. I'm just gonna share with you my experience from working with students and also working at the St. Martin Secondary School. Before the COVID hit, I had already started working on several projects because I thought that online was always the way to go, and we had some students who were going home and they needed help. So we had our own in-house project where even before CSEC was talking about going online, I already had set up online for the St. Martin Secondary. And one of the things that I found that was a little bit surprising to me is that students was very afraid to hit buttons, especially if that button is related to a quiz. Student froze. Although they have technical device, when we walking around to see how they navigate in the platform, we noticed that students were very afraid and they had to go and vomit. They were shaking. So we were wondering what is happening. And funny enough, they mentioned that, so when you press that button, begin quiz, it means the quiz start? Yes, the quiz start. So does it mean the time going down? Yes, you will see the time counting down there. So you can go there and you have to be prepared for that. And that in itself was very, very eye-opening for us. So imagine these are secondary school students and you have primary school as well, and students who not so, as confident as they should be to deal with online. So you could already understand some of the pressures that they would have had even before when they were going through this. They are currently going through this at the same time. As I mentioned, I will continue to use my experience. Don't feel like I am, is what I am able to draw from. So you can come in and comment as we move forward. Please don't let me alone be speaking. Okay? So we did not have a time to really gauge our students' technical capabilities, although we think that they might be good because we see them with devices. Much less gearing our parents' capabilities, our students' parents' capabilities. Now, that is a big challenge in itself, especially in the primary area, because we are going to rely a lot on the parents to help the child to navigate whatever we are doing. So we didn't get to do that as well. So in that sense, we kind of run into a big roadblock, and we were kind of bumbling around to get the kids going. And you would have heard the frustration as we begin in the early years when teachers are trying to help the children, because students get having problems and parents were not so, techno savvy, being frustrated and having that same problem. So we have to know how we're going to get through that. And that is one of the things that we have to do as teachers. And I'm hoping that after we finish, you have some of that insight to prepare yourself even better, because I don't think online is leaving for a while. Okay. Now, as mentioned, when it comes to ICT, we only sometimes think about showing a little YouTube, showing a little PowerPoint, and that is basically it for some of us. I'm not saying all of us, but sometimes based on the resources, that is what is there. But now we are into this whole conundrum right now. You have to understand way more beyond just PowerPoint and YouTube. I have to now welcome you, and like how I did with my teachers, welcome you to the tech ecosystem. And that is basically how everything works with everything. If you think of the water cycle, or everything is interrelated to one another, you have to now get that understanding of that whole settings. And I could be wrong, but we did not get as teachers enough practice or enough heads up about this, going into what we are actually experiencing right now. We needed a little bit more. So I'm going to try and see how much I can get through, and I hope it is helpful to you. Now, one of the things that I'm not too sure if you contemplate it as a teacher, but I think as you get into the situation of teaching, this question might have come up, but it might have come up in the format that you might think it came up, but it might have come from, how do we cater for our students through the ICT? And we did not realize the magnitude of contemplation and consideration and perspective that we have to look at as we get into the whole idea of ICT now, as we know current condition, right? Because one of the things you want to get to understand, and I think you would have experienced it, feel free to tell me if you have experienced it, because then I'll be able to share a little bit more with you. Because not all the students have the same capability. Not all the students operate within the same confine. Not all the students are accustomed to be on a device for a long time. Not all the students have the same device. So most of the time, I think as teachers, we do our work and think because they have a device and they are techno savvy, because we consider them the generation this year techno savvy, they should be able to handle themselves and be okay. So I just need to come to teach, and the students should be able to open the device and find what I am giving them. Am I right? Am I wrong? Should I be adjusted? Tell me what you think. Come on, teachers. We have a lot of educated person. Share your opinion, please. We love it.
I stand with your sentiments. Continue when you're doing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Before you move on, so
yes, Ms. Huggins, go ahead.
it's not just that students are not au fait with the technology, some of them not knowing what to do. You have to take into consideration some teachers don't know what to do either, because I'm one of those who aren't really techno savvy and had a really, really hard time getting off with this online teaching. I'm doing better than I did last year, but there's still so much more for me to learn to do. So we have to take that into consideration also. Teachers, parents, students, everybody is having problems.
Wonderful. Please don't let Mr. Ashford and Miss Huggins alone speak. We are all in this together. I want you to share your opinion. I want to share your suggestion, because I don't want to go through this and then don't get the opportunity to address some of your concerns. Okay? I just don't want to come and just present my point of view. I see your hands up. Maguire, yes, go ahead.
Okay, good night, everyone. What I would like to say is one of the things that I've realized is it's not just enough to have teachers trained. I think teachers have to also admit that in some cases they do not know what to do, because I know of instances where some persons are not technologically savvy, but they do not want to admit that they do not know what to do. So we have to get to that place where we acknowledge that we do not know what to do and we are receptive to training.
Wonderful. I appreciate that a lot. Even person might say, okay, he's a specialist and so forth, but the specialists don't know everything. We don't know everything, and we have to be able to learn to reach out and ask for help. Because even person might think, okay, Gums is a specialist in this. I do reach out to help. You have to know what you're good at, where your weakness at, and be able to find the necessary resources to complement you to move forward. And that is very important as we move forward here. Now, one of the things that we have to do, or we had to do with as we begin, and again, I'm telling you, I'm going to draw from my experience. At the St. Martin Secondary, even before our students went online, we had to do a lot of research in how many kids have this, how many kids have that, what are the parents, what are the internet at home for parents, does children have the tactile experience of working with keyboards, can they see the equivalent conversion from a full keyboard to a digital keyboard for their devices? How are they operating? How are they looking for items on their screen? Where are the first reaction? We had to do a lot of research in that as to move our kids at St. Martin Secondary from the book to the online. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we did that, and maybe it's something as you progress, it's something that you can implement at your school, even for your class, because I get to find out, I knew it, but I kind of forget that sometimes the primary school, like each class is an ecosystem, like one teacher teaches all the subject. So sometimes that teacher is responsible for the management of that entire class from beginning to exam. So sometimes you as a teacher in the class, although you're a teacher, nurse, and everybody and so forth, now you have another tool in your hand. Now you have another set of skills you have to learn, which is technology skills and how to maneuver. And I think that is where a lot of us run into difficulty. Okay, so I'm going to just put it in a nutshell for you so that you could see and get your head wrapped around it as to where we are going. All right. Now, getting to know your audience is one of the most important things, first step that you have to do. And that I am not too sure if that was implemented in the different schools. Now, because of the large array of devices that are out there, understanding each device is a Herculean task, but at the same time, getting an idea of how each device works is very, very important in you having a comfortable class compared to you having a frustrating class in this IT time right now would include a lot of ICT. So we have a very large array of devices. We have people overseas sending device for the student, along with what the government would have given to their students, along with what parents can afford to give to their students, right? Tablets are not just tablets anymore. Computers and laptops are not just computers and laptops anymore. They are much more, and having an understanding of how they interact with each other and how what you use as a tool in your classroom interact with those devices is very important. All right. So we have tablets. Now, iPad is trying to market itself as not a tablet. They want to call an iPad. So they have something completely different from what all other iPad tablets will have. So you have to understand that. Laptops now are not just laptops anymore. They have now broken down laptops to a lot more different things that the regular laptops can't work the way some of these specialized laptops have, and you will meet them in your classroom. And the specialized laptops do not have some of the things that the regular laptops have. If you're taking a look at a modern laptop right now, you will realize, tell me if I'm wrong, you will realize that they don't come with a CD drive anymore, right? You will notice that the modern laptop does not have that because almost everything now is being streamed, meaning being watched from YouTube, a streaming organization, whatever the case may be. So they don't have the CD drive. It's one of the fastest technology that get outdated. It was CD, DVD, then it gone. So now it's all the flash drive, SD card, and so forth. So you have to understand that. All right. So let's take a look here. We have tablets. As I mentioned to you, tablets are not just tablets anymore. They are breaking down in different categories now, different branding, and each of them is being used by their organization to execute a specific purpose for their organization. All right. So a child might say, and I think you might have run into that. You might hear the parents say, oh, but his tablet can't get to the screen. Now you in your head, because maybe as a teacher, your exposure of a tablet might be what you have personally, which might be an iPad, it might be a Samsung tablet, but so your tablet could do what you the teacher is doing. The parent's category of a tablet might be a Kindle Fire or a Nook. And no one would have explained to us as teacher or even to the parents that these tablets, although they are called tablet, they are not really the true sense of tablet because they can't do certain things. And certain things that you want the child to do, they can't execute it on those tablets. Anybody had that experience before? Parents call, oh, my child can't get in. It's a brand new tablet we just bought. It should be working. Anybody meet up on that?
Yes.
Okay.
And up to today, I was trying to show the students an image and they weren't able to see it while I was seeing it on my tablet.
Right. So, yeah. Right. And that is a consistent pain. That is a consistent pain. I see Ogaro had the hand up. Ogaro, please don't shy away. Please mention what you're saying.
Oh, sorry. Good evening. I was just saying, yes, I've had that experience as well. And what I noticed too, it seems that we're using Teams, but the Teams on the children's tablet doesn't seem to have all the features the teachers' tablets have, because there's certain times when I would ask them click on certain buttons, and they don't have the buttons. So it seems like there's a slight difference in the setup of teams between the teachers' tablets and the students' tablets. I may be wrong,
Yes.
but that's the impression I'm getting.
Yes, yes. Maki? El Maki, you have your hands up? Your hand up there? Okay, so we continue. So yes, this will be a consistent problem with a lot of schools, a lot of teachers, because the necessary groundwork was not done, right? So let's say, for example, a parent here is asking an aunt to oversee for a tablet, and they send a Nook or they send a Kindle, and the parent is very appreciative of that, understandably so. But at the same time, you have to know the Nook is a device that was specific to Barnes and Nobles. And because I think they're not really doing the kind of work that they're doing now, they are very cheap to get. But the Nook can only use to read a book. It can't browse the internet that well. All right. So they will run, that device is basically not a good device to give a child who go into ICT. The Kindle and the Kindle Fire is Amazon specific, right? And sometimes Google Meet will not work on the Kindle or the Kindle Fire because they have, you know, different brands trying to keep different portions out of their market. The Alcatel, which is the one that we'll have down here, are the one some of our students will have. It will work with things like Zoom and the MS Teams and so forth, but the way and manner in which it renders information to the students could be a little bit different from how you're seeing it on the device. The other thing that we're going to run into is that all of these devices work differently in terms that when you are doing a presentation to the students have to understand, and the parents have to understand as well, you, the teacher, have to understand where are the navigation buttons on these devices so you could guide your child. Now, before we even went into the COVID, what we had to do is get one of each of these devices. Yes, we had to do that. We had to, if we don't buy one, we borrow one from somebody, and we had to test each of these devices because these are the devices that our students are having in their hand to do their ICT class. Because sometimes that you can't push a child to buy an iPad because you don't know the children or the family economic situation. So if they have, the only thing they have is a Kindle. You have to now understand how that Kindle works with what you planning to use in your class so that child is not left on the side. So you yourself, if you have the opportunity, need to go find a Kindle, you yourself use a Kindle and try execute a class on both devices so you could see what are some of the challenges that each of these devices presented to you. You understand that? You guys understand what I just mentioned there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Right. So you have to read that kind of background work has to do before we even get into our ICT lesson. You have to prepare for ICT at this point in time. You have to, right? So in order for you to do this, you might have to ask a neighbor, do you have a Kindle? Do you have a Nook? And let me understand, let me see how this Nook here operates. Let me see what this Nook can do. Let me see what this Kindle Fire can do. Let me see what this iPad can do. Because now some parent might give the child an iPad, but actually the iPad sometimes is so specific that you can't get free items on the iPad for a child to do what they need to do. So buying an iPad sometimes means additional expense to the parent to buy the software and application that you get free on your computer. So We have to understand that environment. Okay, so let's go. The laptops now. Now, this is another life on its own. This is a whole different life on its own again. We have laptops, which is like a regular Microsoft laptop. Those that you can go and buy for like, say, $500 or $800. You can buy those, right? Then we have the Apple. And you know the Apple could be a little bit pricey, right? So an Apple device is continuously pricey, meaning that you buy the Apple, but you don't buy the computer as yet. Because if you don't buy the Apple, you still, all the application that you need for that Apple device, you have to buy it. And it could be very expensive. So be careful what you buy for your children, or be careful what you suggest. Normally in our PTA, and in persons who I speak with, I advise them to buy a regular laptop, because the regular laptop allow you, although I don't promote it, but I will tell you straight up front, I promote it for educational purposes, not to make money. I promote bootlegging. You want a Microsoft Office on your computer? Of course, I encourage persons, because in some of our financial position we had, a Microsoft Word, like the Word, PowerPoint, and Publisher, they will land a typical parent within hundreds of dollars to buy to get it on your computer. And you will see it when your trial version run out on the computer and they're asking you to purchase a license. You will see that it will land you at least close to $500 for the whole suite. Don't talk about the Apple devices. The Apple devices, I think, is for adults or for those who can afford those kind of pricey devices and the software that comes with it. Not for the family who trying to, just get their child into class, which a lot of our parents land themselves into. We have the Chromebook. Now, this Chromebook has been showing up itself very regular recently. And what it is not a true laptop in the sense of what we understand what a laptop is. It's basically a computer with a browser on it. It can save information. You can download application for it. You can put Microsoft Word on it for the children to save a document. You can do Excel on it. It is completely reliant on the cloud services. So if your child has the Chrome computer and the parent keeps saying, but I just bought the laptop for the child. What do you mean the child can't do the work? Brand new laptop, because in their mind, their idea of a laptop is the regular laptop that has the keyboard, that could use the mouse, that has a hard drive. The Chrome does not have a hard drive, but it is now coming in a lot because it's cheaper than the regular computer. So sometimes, because we are not technical persons, a parent will say, oh, my child can't get this, can't get that, and they have a brand new laptop. Most of the time, the question stops there. But what we have to do is dig even a little bit deeper and say, what kind of laptop the child have? What kind of tablet they're using? Oh, that is why, because if it's a Chromebook, she will not be able to use what we're using. So now you have to find a way to work around that to include that one child in your class at this point. Now, it has reached as far as some of these iPads or tablets, they come with a keyboard, and they are now being substituted for a laptop. A tablet with a keyboard could never do what a laptop does. So we have to understand that. And some of the parents are not aware of that, but they need to understand that as well. All right? Okay. Is everybody okay so far? Does everybody understand what I just mentioned about the tablet and the laptops?
Yes, please.
Yes. Oh.
Okay. So the smartphones now, and this is how the whole breed on its own. The smartphones. And again, a lot of persons, and they use the smartphones because it's what they can afford, or it's what is given to them, maybe from an auntie, uncle, or whatever the case. And we will have to try to see how best we can incorporate these children on the smartphone. But the smartphone although it's what they have, it lose from the very beginning because of the age of the child sometimes that is using the smartphone. It's only so long they could deal with these small screens to conduct a class or to be in a class. But sometimes that is all they have. And if you think about it, some of our children are a lot of them are in that predicament. So we have to see how best we can do it. So sometimes you yourself have to go get a smartphone and test the smartphone and see what it can do. To see, and this family is so big, to cater for them can be a Herculean task. You could only do so much because you have this Samsung family that goes from the A20. Right now they are A71, then they have the S20 and the S9. They have so many. And it's a pretty big task put on us as teacher. And I will speak from a teacher point of view as well. I'm not going to speak from the technical part so much. I empathize with what we are going through. All right. And the Samsung family is so large that catering for so much of them could be a challenge in itself. You can't cater for all of them. And for that one unfortunate child that might have a phone that can't use the browser, I can't use MS Team, what do we do? All right. Then we have the Apple family. And then we have everybody else, because if you're not in the Samsung or the Apple family, you become everybody else. Because you have the Alcatel, you have the Microsoft phone, you have the Huawei phones. You have so many versions of them out there. But yet we have to prepare ourselves for them. And how best we can, I'm going to be able to share with you in a few minutes. Okay. Now, before we even start thinking of using ICT, we have to understand what is out there in our children's hands. What is it in our student hands, your student in particular, right? You have to find that out even before you start thinking of teaching ICT. You cannot do anything else without finding out what is in your children's hand. If you try to do that, trust me, and I'm not speaking because, I'm speaking because I know. You're gonna be one of the most frustrated teachers ever walk in your classroom or in your school, because you're gonna be constantly being bombarded with comments like, "Sam, I see, Miss, I can't see, Miss, I can't hear you. Miss, how do I turn on my mic? Miss, how do I turn on the camera? Miss, how you get to that and I can't get there?" That is the common questions you're gonna be having. And because you don't know what devices are in your children's hand, you are gonna be frustrated. You are gonna be fed up. You're gonna throw your hands up. Because you will not be able to properly execute your classroom in a smooth, rewarding fashion that you're accustomed to do it, because you're not aware what is it your children are using. All right? You will not be able to do that. And that is what you need to do even before you say you're going to do an ICT class. Because remember, this session is planning for an ICT class. And this planning for an ICT class is much different than you go into a physical classroom to do an ICT class. You go into a physical classroom for an ICT class, you have your students sitting in front of you. You have a projector maybe, you have your computer connected to the projector screen, and you're showing your PowerPoint, and you're showing your video. And your class is, quote unquote, in an ICT class. But this level of ICT is completely different. And the groundwork that needs to be done for you as a teacher, it was a little bit lacking. It was just a little bit lacking. So before you even start moving in that direction of planning for the ICT class, the first thing that we have to do is understand what is it our children have in their hand, so that we could plan for those. Because you're planning for the child, yes, but you have to plan for the device. Because if what you're doing can't be working on the device, you lose the child. That is how fragile the connection is at this point that we are currently working in. That if what you're using to teach your class cannot connect to those devices, you lose your child. You lose the children. Either the children fed up and frustrated too, or you end up with 1 or 2 children in your class because they are so turned off by the use of their device that they just walk away. And you start wondering, this child not showing up to class, that child not showing up to class, what going on? When you call home, you hear some parents, you can hear it in the parents' voice. The parents will say, oh, well, he tried to come on, he can't see the screen, he don't know what's going on. And those are the kind of rewards that you're gonna have. And you, from a technical standpoint, or us from a technical standpoint, hands are tied because we have to show where to go with that information. Okay? How am I so far? Am I off? Am I going right? Am I completely off topic? Tell me.
You're on topic. Keep going.
Okay. The other thing that we have to do, or you have to do as a school, or your school have to do, you have to know your children, where they live in, and their internet connection there. You have to understand what is going on there. Somebody in your school have to understand that. So when a child is not connected, you can say, you can call a child, John, what is happening? Miss, well, rain is coming right now and my internet cut out. I say, then you say, okay, no problem, that is fine. No, at least we know that we are aware of that situation, and at least we know that that you're not just jumping, you're born in class. Okay, you have to understand that. Okay, what kind of can the child navigate the device, right? And some of the devices that they have are so different that you yourself sometimes takes you a while to sit down and navigate the device to find out what is happening, where to find what. And that is where I think we drop the ball a bit, because we can assume because our students are techno-savvy, they should know how to navigate the device. But they know how to navigate the device, but the application that you're going to use, how do they navigate that application? How do they use that navigation? I think I could remember there was a situation when students couldn't find their classrooms, where students couldn't to get their password reset. They don't know where to go to get their password reset. Does the child know all of that? No, sometimes it was just thrown in their hand. So we have to, you as a school now, have to take on that, but most of the schools did not have that technical support to do that, right? Do you need training to navigate the device? This again, they take for granted. We took this for granted because the children know they have phone in their hands all the time. Yes, they have phones in their hand all the time, but I used to take a picture, that is to make a video, that is Facebook, and that is Instagram. That's about it. That's the most they use those devices for. And WhatsApp, don't forget the WhatsApp, right? It's TikTok and those things. That is what they use it for. But when it comes to be using for educational stuff that we are currently using, it's gonna be a challenge for them. But you as the teachers, us as the teachers, you as the principal, you as the HOD, head of department, you need all this information before you start getting into your ICT class. You need all of this. And you need to collect it as fast as you possibly can. We were just fortunate at St. Martin that we were running that experimental project. So we had already sent out, we know how many cell phones, how many students only have cell phones. We know exactly which child have cell phone, which child have tablet. We know everything about that child. So when we're ready, we know how to format our system. So it caters for all our students who are out there with us from St. Martin Secondary. Again, I'm just drawing from my experience. Please don't beat me. I'm just sharing that with you. So those are the things that need to be done in your school as well. Okay. Now, one of the tools that we use and that I'm going to show you how to use is to pull that information from your student and from your parents as well. We one of some of the most common ones out there is like SurveyMonkey and Google Forms. They have a lot of them out there. But the one I would advise you to use and your school to use is the Google Forms to pull that information so that you get that kind of report as to where your students are at in terms of getting ready for your ICT class. Where are your students? What device they have? And you have to ask those questions, and those questions have to be answered. If persons are refusing to answer them, they need to mention them, because then you can properly prepare for your ICT class, because whatever you prepare is going to prepare it in such a way it caters for all these devices, so that at least 99%, if not 100% of your class is interacting or they're there with you. You don't lose them because they can't see or anything like that. So I just want to show you an example of how you pull information and how you read the information from something such as Google Form. There are some things that you will have to learn, and you will learn them as you develop yourself. And these are called analytics. Now, analytics are things that teach you about your audience, okay? You can go as far as understanding studies like how does the child eyes? Yes, their eyes. How does a child eyes move across the computer screen? That is you might think it's a silly thing, but it's a very important thing. What is it that attract the child eyes? What is it that attract the child eyes to look in a particular direction? And you have the camera, you have 2 or 5 test subjects that you're able for the camera to pick up their eye movement. And you could see where on your ICT tools that you're using, where not to put a button, what color to put the button in, what kind of navigation to put. You even have to learn, and I think you will understand this at this point, what color, don't get tricked, what color am I supposed to put my things into? People just put any random color that comes to their mind. But I need you to know that colors carry a very important meaning and power to it. Some colors turn children off. Some colors encourage children. Some colors make your document unreadable. Some colors make the item and your presentation annoying. So you have to know that. Yes, Maki? Are you hearing?
Hello.
Okay. Okay. Does everybody understand that? How you have to, everybody understand that, Mr. Ned?
So fast.
So far, so good.
Yes.
Okay. So as you develop yourself, as you start preparing yourself for ICT, I'm going to show you now how you're going to pull that information, or how some of the simplest ways you can find to get that information for yourself. Let me switch my screen here quickly, please. Give me 1 second. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me just pull it up here quickly. All right. Let me just pull it. Okay, let me get a different one for you to use here. I want one with information in it so that you see how this is set up. So just bear with me 1 minute. Okay. All right, so let me get one that is closed, then subject is closed. All right, got one. Let me share it back. So this is a form. Tell me when you give me a hands up when you're able to see the screen. Okay. So this is a typical example of a form that you can use to pull the information. So the students, you can use these forms for a lot of different things, but you want the information from it. And as mentioned, you want to know what every student is having. So this is a simplified version that I'm going to show you. All right. So in this case, I have, let's look at the responses because that is very important, right? You have the student's name and everything like that, their last name, their email. I'm going to take you straight to where I want to feed with you. Let's start going here. Let's start with this question here. For example, I mean, the information was displayed incorrectly, but I can still read it. Your student age. And you as teachers will know your student age, and based on their age, you'll have to understand their attention span and the things that will annoy them. And colors play a lot of role, especially in primary school. That is why your classroom sometimes are so beautiful and pretty, because the colors are there for the calming effect. Some are there for calming effect for students. All right, coming down, coming down. Okay. One second. Here we go. This is one in particular. What type of devices you have? Now, this is not broken down as much as I would like it to be broken down, but I'm able to work with it still. If you want to find out exactly, you'll have to put the different devices there that your student have. And I want you to see, look at it this carefully, look at it very, very carefully. You will see that the highest percentage of students have tablets. So whatever you do, or whatever you're planning to do, have to work on tablet. And remember, we talk about the different set of tablets that are out there. So you have to understand tablets. The second big group is the phone. So you have to gear up for the phone again and prepare for the different variations in phones. Whatever you decide to plan to do in your ICT class, have to be able to work on phones. And the third group is laptops, because most people, the reason why it's like this now, most people are able to get a tablet quicker than a phone, because a decent phone might run you about, say, between $2,000 to $3,000 if you want one that works well. Now, if you could get a smartphone, it might land you a little bit over $1,000 if you want one, a pretty decent one. So that is why the tablet is the bigger group, because tablet, you could get tablet when everybody have a tablet or should have a tablet because the government give one. And then you can get one cheaper than getting a phone. And you could get a phone cheap. You can get a tablet or a laptop for the price less than a phone. And most parents or most students or most children, to be in the in thing, they don't want a laptop. They more head for the tablet or a phone because that is where the fashion is. But in terms of functionality and capability, you need a laptop. And yet you see the laptop is the third in the group in terms of numbers. And this will, I want to believe that this will definitely be the trend any way you look at it, in any school, in any setting. In some cases, notice that the phone is not too far off. In some cases, the phone might outdo the tablet, but I don't think that the laptop will ever be the top option. It might come second, but I don't think it will ever be the top option with students and kids. So once you understand this, then you could start seeing how you can tailor your lessons, seeing what you can do ICT and if it can work with these different devices. Notice that the desktop almost obsolete. Notice desktop, the desktop is way down on the line. The desktop now is gearing to more towards like the tech for classes, you know, and those persons who might into little designing and so forth and things like that. But the laptop is really, those top trees are the trees that you need to be taken into consideration. Some of the questions that are not here is internet connection. Now, if your school, majority of your school, and the parents, and you need to get these information from parents, even in your PTA, send them a survey. Are you familiar with tablets? Are you familiar with using the computer? If most of them might say no, some might say yes, they could navigate. So you have to understand how well are they navigating these tablets. So that could help you help the child. Because if you notice by the response they're getting that, listen, these parents really don't know about tablets. They just put in the tablets in the child hand and then that is it. If that is the case, then you have to step out on a limb and do a training session for your parents. That is what you had to do. That is what we had to do. In our PTA, we had to train our parents how to navigate our system. We have to train them how to navigate the tablet as well. If a parent is finding difficulty and the parent is the only guardian for that child, we have to invite that parent in to help them navigate that. It's a lot of work when you're preparing for your ICT in this time that we are currently navigating. All right. So look at the bundle. Is the tablet first, 73%, the phone second, 68%, the laptop third, 50%, the desktop last, 5%. And this is gonna be your general, this is gonna be the general position across the board. As I mentioned, now and then, in some cases, the phone will overtake the tablet, but you notice the margin is not too far off. So they will be back and forth. But the laptop and the desktop will never be the lead in your schools anymore among children. So you have to cater for that. Any questions and concerns so far? Let me pause for a little question and concern. Comments, observations?
May I?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Ned. Go ahead, please.
Yes, one of my concerns is how does a teacher of a subject like EDPM get to do his or her work in a non-blended situation, online situation? It's the tasks that the children are given. Some of them they're going to try to complete these tasks using the keyboard that comes with the tablet. But in the testing environment, it's going to be a different interface, a different situation. The Microsoft Office in 360 version for the tablet is not the same appearance as it would be in the exam. So right away, the students are at an advantage. And I would like to hear from teachers of EDPM what suggestions they have, because I'm trying to help a child and I would like to know something that I could suggest that the child could do to get these tasks done. Thank you.
Okay. Now, that's a beautiful question and a kind of weird situation because we are currently combating that at the same time. And as Mr. Ned mentioned, if other person out there have suggestions, please feel free. To bring the children closest to the experience that they might have, that's the most we can cater for EDPM at this time in a non-blended environment, bringing them closest to what is there. Now, throughout our settings at St. Martin, what we try to do, because no matter how we try, the keyboard on the devices will not replace or even come close to what is on the actual computer. So in most cases, we try to have them download like a full QWERTY keyboard on their device, which kind of help them. It doesn't help them in keyboard, but as I mentioned, is to get them closest to the experience as possible. and the Microsoft Teams and so forth that we will see in the Microsoft Team, the Microsoft Word that they will use in the exam, gonna be way off than what they have now. So the closest thing that we have carried our students to is using the Google Sheet, because it kind of have a lot of the commands come close to what the actual Microsoft would have. And that again bring us back to knowing what the device that the students have. Because some of our students, speaking just specifically for my students, they will have like the larger tablets with the keyboard attached to them. So that would be like the Samsung and those kind of stuff. But those that have the like the Nook and the Kindle and even the one the government has, you will have a little bit more challenging. EDPM gonna be a challenge regardless of the case because of the nature of EDPM. And I think most people will find that is a challenge. And I think what we do, like if we want to do the speed tests, we try as much to put on the camera and let them do that and let them try to type as fast as they can. But again, the experience is going to be completely different compared to a keyboard. The speed that they might type on the actual tablet or device might not be equal to the speed they will type on an actual laptop with the full keyboard. They might even be slower on the keyboard. So that is something that we have to find a way to get around as much of the challenge as we possibly can. But that subject will present, and as well as some other subject, will present a lot of challenge for a lot of teachers as we move along. As I say, unless someone have anything that you'd like to suggest, is bringing the students to the closest experience they can get to being in front of a full computer or laptop. Anyone would like to share? Okay. Does everyone understand how, like everyone understand the category of the different devices and understand where they land? Does it sound close? Just picturing it, what your student have, what you know your student have. Does the percentage kind of sound equal across the board? Anybody? Everybody? Okay. So yes, Seaton? Seaton, you want to share something? Okay, all right. Let me just change the back to this a bit. Now, I think everyone should, I think most persons, Google Forms is pretty easy to use and set up. Just make sure that the information that you want is mandatory for you to collect. And you need to ask the difficult questions. Do you have internet? Is your internet consistent? Do you have access to, do you know how to access the Google Store? Do you know how to access the App Store on your phone? Do you know how to do these things? Because you're going to be at home and you're going to send a link to the child to download certain things. And you need to know if the child or the parent can do both of them. Otherwise, you'll be answering phone calls for quite a while. All right. Ms. Seaton, your mic is on mute. Do you want to say something?
Yes, please. I was having some problems a while ago with my microphone.
Okay, go ahead.
Now I have a question, right? I notice that sometimes when I am trying to add a link from YouTube, right, to Teams, to any document, right? When I'm sharing my screen on PowerPoint, I'm getting problems. So I am wondering if it's the best device to use is a laptop, because I normally use my tablet to teach my class. So I'm wondering if I want to share.
So what are some of the problems that you will encounter?
Well, for
give me an example.
Okay. When I'm trying to, for example, if I have a Microsoft Word document and I am attaching a link to it from YouTube, it has problems download, or if I download it, it will not come on the screen when I share my screen, or if I open a PowerPoint presentation. And I normally use my tablet, right? So I'm wondering if it's a tablet or if I should use a computer, like when I want the children to hear a video, if you can click from YouTube that is downloaded.
That is, okay, now let me walk me through the process. So you are copying a link from YouTube with a video you want them to share, and you putting it into Teams for the children to see, right?
Yes, please.
And you're using a tablet, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now this is a wonderful situation, and it opens a lot of it opens to a lot of possibility. So I want persons to understand. Listen to the scenario again, colleagues. Miss Seaton want to share a video from YouTube using a link, using a tablet, so that the rest of our students can view that video from her tablet. Now, in a situation like this, it opens a lot of possibilities that can go wrong to help your child just because simple motor skills. And I will explain. Now, there's a difference in copying a link from using a tablet from YouTube and insert it than using a computer to copy that same link to share with someone. Now, if you think of using a tablet to share a link or even copy a link, you realize you have to tap on it several times for it to be highlighted. And when it do highlight it, it presents two controls for you to drag and everything like that to copy the whole link. Then you have to copy it, and then you have to paste it somewhere else. Now, between copying or selecting and moving, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Because with links, especially when it comes to tablet, if you even copy a space extra, that link will not work. So sometimes, because I have big fingers, sometimes because our fingers are a little big for the screen, you could understand the frustration of tapping on that link and dragging to select on your tablet to then navigate to a different page and then paste it there for your students to see. Sometimes you left off a letter. Sometimes you did not include a dot. Sometimes it leaves so much thing why that link will not work for your students, especially using the tablet. A hands is up, Miss G.
As you were talking about colors a while ago, you see the orange you have on the screen, it's hurting my eyes because I'm listening to you, but I want to look too.
You want to look too?
Replace it with something else.
All right, appreciate it. No problem, no problem. All right, give me 1 second. So, Miss Seaton, you understand? So you have to look at how you're moving that link from using the tablet. So that's why I mentioned most of the time it is better to use, for the teacher especially, to use a computer. Okay?
Okay, thanks for the information.
No problem. And Miss G, as you mentioned with the colors, again, some colors will be thing, but I bet you, because that orange was there, it brought certain things to your attention. It was not meant to be stared at. It was just meant to just hold some information and move on. Important information that you want to highlight.
Actually, it reminded me that colors do have an effect on
definitely
teaching as well, because studies say that green is easier on the eyes. So when we use red and we use orange, it can be hard on the students' eye because the glare is already there from the
wonderful,
screen.
Wonderful, yeah. Wonderful. So we have to understand all of that as we move forward.
And as the teacher was saying, as it relates to her sharing with her laptop, it's best to share with the laptop, because sometimes the features on the tablet, you have to put it portrait, sometimes you have to put it landscape in order to see the full screen. So it's best to use the laptop. I think the government should have given teachers laptops. Thank you.
Wonderful. So that as well brings you as well, just like when Miss G mentioned, how aware and how well are you with the different device? As she said, the portrait, sometimes those things could be annoying. The portrait and the landscape, to get to even sometime to touch a particular link, you have to be able to spin the device however you can to get to click on those links. So it is better from the teacher perspective to use the laptop rather than the tablet. It is much better, okay? All right, so we'll continue. Now, this brings us to the next thing. First, you have to understand, we talk about understanding what kind of device the children have. You have to know that as well. And you have to be aware of the kind of device that your children have available at their home. You have to know that. We talk about that. Now we come now to the applications now. What are the applications you planning to use as a teacher? And if you're going to use this application, does any of the students who complete the information data collection, would it work on their device or not work at all? This is the kind of information that we need to know. So getting that information from your students and from your parents is one of the most vital and fundamental things that you will have to do. All right, what are the applications you planning on using? Okay, let's move forward. Now, you have to understand, if you don't understand it completely, you have to have a general idea of how these OS work. Now, OS, as we mentioned earlier, is called operating system. So the operating system is basically what's on the computer when it boots up and it gives you those pretty icons and so forth to link on. Those are the operating system. All right. You have Windows, you have the Apple or the Mac OS, and you have the Android. These are the three most popular ones. With majority of the persons in Windows, the second group might be Android, and the minority might be Apple, which is the Mac OS, because they're kind of pricey to get into. So these three being the most popular. And most of the time, the software is not interchangeable, meaning it can work from one to the other. Majority of the devices that we have, or our students have, will be between the Windows and the Android device. Once you know that, you now will have to know where to find the application that you want to use and where you find the application you want to use on the Android and if you want to work on the Windows. Now, the Android is the operating system. For those persons who don't know what the Android is, the Android is most of the operating system that is on most of your phone, such as the tablet. The tablets, your phone, itself, your phone, the Samsungs especially, they utilize the Android operating system. The Apple is specialized by themselves. You can't just download their operating system because they're trying to be exclusive. So most of the phone that you see floating around, if it's not an Apple, it most likely have an Android device. Okay. My hand is up. Let me check here. Oh, Miss G, your hand is up. Is that a new question or was it old question, Miss G?
Oh, I wasn't seeing my hands up. I'm not asking a question, sorry.
Okay, no problem. All right. So yeah, so most of the device, which is the Samsung, and those other devices have the Android. So really and truly, for you to cater for those children, you have to make sure whatever application you're using is found on the Google Play Store. So whatever application you have, or whatever application you're going to use, make sure there's a version of it on the Google Store, with the Google Play Store, and that you are aware how it works. So if you're going to use a particular application, that application should be on your phone as well. So when you download it to interact with it, you are familiar with any possible problems the child might run into in using that particular application. And I'm hoping that everybody is familiar with the Google Store, the Google Play Store. Everybody's familiar with that, most everybody. Just raise your hand.
Yes, please.
Okay, good. So most of you will have to understand how that works. And using the Google Play Store, if you are using a laptop and you're using a particular application, and by now most of your children are Android device users, you have to go and look for the equivalent application on the Google Store that will be using, and the children can connect to your application. All right. Now there's a whole slew of applications out there. Some of them are free. So you have to also look for those that are free. And when they are free, you're not really gonna get the full feature, because the themes on your phone will not be the same themes on your computer. The themes on your phone will be a stripped down version of the themes on your computer. Same with the tablet, because the tablet won't have all the functionality. So that is why earlier someone mentioned that the students were unable to find certain things on their phone using Teams and any other application compared to on their computer. So you have to be aware of those diverse differences. The Linux, most people don't have that, so we're not even going to be bothered with that. The two big family is the Windows family, the Mac OS, and the Android. Those are the three big ones, three largest group that we'll be working with. All right. So then we have the themes, not the themes, the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. They are not interchangeably, because almost everything on the Apple Store you have to buy. Apple things are not cheap, but most of our students is on the Google Play Store, so you have to be able to get them. Now you as well, based on the application and so forth that you are going to be using, right? You have to find out if there's a free version out there or if there's a freeware version out there. Now, there's a difference between free or open source and trial. Now, the trial, as you would see, and some of you would have run into, the trial is for 30 days. And after that, you have to pay for it. So I use trial, and I advise my teachers to use trial. But when you're using trial and you want the trial software, you have to plan for the trial. So every trial is 30 days. Do not install this on your computer until you're actually ready for it. Because once you install it on the computer and it's only free for 30 days, that's it. Even if you delete it, if some application, even because you delete it and you reinstall it, you will see that the trial is still up. All right? So you have to be aware of that. And that's a whole different story, but some trial will not give you back a next free 30 days because you uninstall it and reinstall it. No, it will not. There's other things it does to the computer that prevents you from having another free trial again. So if you're doing your research and you're planning for your ICT lesson and the application you want to use, you see that there's a free trial for it of 30 days. You read and there's a free trial. Do not install it until you're actually ready for it. So that is part of your planning. So when you're ready for it, you install it. You start using it. Maybe what you're teaching with it might be up by 30 days, might be done by 30 days. Good. That is good, because remember, after the 30 days, you cannot get the application anymore. So after that, you encourage, when your lesson starts, you encourage the children, please install this now. Go to the Google Store, download this, and you're able to give the direction because you already tested it out. And then you get the children them to use it for that 30 days and you move along. Sometimes you have to borrow because you, by chance, just by testing it out, you download the application and install it and the 30 days up. So sometimes you have to borrow somebody else's computer who have never installed it for you to use it with your children. So these are the kind of planning you have to put in place. Free, of course, is out there, but they come with a lot of different things. They come with advertisements. You have to be careful what advertisements are being displayed. When you download a free version, make sure of that. You have to make sure you go through, install it, and by looking at it, the kind of advertisement that they display is children friendly before you actually download it. You don't want to download stuff or put stuff there that when the children install, there are mature content there that the children should not be even seeing in the first place. Even if they're seeing it, it should not be a source. It should not be coming from a source that you, the teacher, provided. So make sure when you install your information and you have them install information that you are aware what kind of advertisement, what kind of program these free applications are viewing, are displaying to the children. So be careful with those as well. Okay. I just tried to put together some of them. As Mr. Ned would have mentioned, there are some here, and there's quite a bit more that I just put out here. When it comes to text, there's Microsoft Word, but there's a whole office system out there that is called Open Office that students can download on their tablet, they can download on their phone, they can download on their computer, and it is as powerful as Microsoft Word, have some of the same controls as those as well. You have the Google Sheet that has a lot of, or the Google Drive setup. I'm sure persons by now are aware of the Google Drive setup. We're not going to go over that because person might be familiar with that. I'm sure you have gone to different ICT class that kind of present those kind of suite in your line of sight. So the Google Suite have a whole slew of applications that they can use. Some of them are free that they could use, like the Google Sheet, the Google Slide, and the Google Forms. All of these are free. I put free quote unquote because that is another whole thing. Let's put free quote unquote. Once you have a Gmail account, they are there for you to use, right? You have the Notepad. For storage, again, you have the Google Drive and you have the OneDrive. For browsers, you have Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, and Safari. Now, these are very important, and some of the differences are very important for you to understand. A matter of fact, most teachers should have a good understanding of how these 4 browsers work, all right? Because, and I will just spend a few minutes on them, just 1 minute or 2, because of the processing speed of the different devices on the phone, most devices will come with Google Chrome because it's lighter. It does not require much processing speed. The Internet Explorer, which is now called, I forgot what it's called now, I hardly use it. But the Internet Explorer and Mozilla Firefox and Safari, they are very processing heavy. So you don't really see them on tablets and phones so much. You more find them on the computers or the laptops. The Google Chrome is the one that you will use most of the time on tablets because it loads faster, it runs applications faster, and it is much easier to use on the various tablets. All right. And then we have presentation like PDF, Word, and of course the Google Slide. I think I see some question here. Let me see, hold on. I see some question coming up here. Now, it is a paramount that students and teachers are familiar with interacting with these various apps. Most students are good at interacting with different platforms, with these applications of these platforms that are important to ICT. I am here and wondering, this is Mr. Oliver, we are really far behind in these. You are so correct with the various apps and available. Yes, yes, we are behind. I wouldn't say we are behind. I would say that we as teachers, based on how the pandemic came on, our head was we were baptized by fire. We were just thrown in, and we didn't get time to really understand how to massage and work with these different devices and applications. Right, exactly. And you're right. That is the process that we had to go through. You know, that is right, Mr. Oliver. That is right. And please take the mic and speak because you are sharing some very vital information here. So this part is where we were really at. And as I mentioned, we just assume or we take for granted that tablet is just tablets. Tablets are not just tablets anymore. We have to know the difference. Mr. Oliver, yes, you're there.
Yeah, good night. Good night. I decided to unmute my mic.
Yes.
Okay, and I hope you hear me clearly.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, the reason why I made that comment, I've been listening because the internet was going in and out because of my location. But we would have been in a better position if let me see, if the process was properly organized. Okay, we are getting the devices. Okay, what are we going to use the devices for? Online teaching, and we could go back to about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years. Let us lay the platform app familiarity, app interactivity in terms of how can we interact with the various apps. I'm talking about the foundation level now. Because what we are doing now is actually trying to teach, trying to do some competencies in the use of the various apps that we can use in our online teaching. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you. Yes, I'm here with you. Yes, I'm here with you. I'm with you.
Right. So our primary focus initially should have been making sure that teachers, it's like how we have tablet for students. Okay, we should have, our primary objective, because we see in 15, 20 years down the road in terms of how things are going, should have been teachers' familiarity with the system units, which mean computers, tablets, laptop. Okay, it will not have cost us much. Okay, and then we talk about the various apps that are maybe integral in our teaching and learning in maybe the 24th century. Let me put it that way. We had something like that. Okay, but what we did, what we are doing, that is how I'm seeing it, because I have problems guys do online teaching, is that we give them the device. Okay, device would not last because most of the students are not familiar with the device, the operating system of the device, okay, the apps that comes with the device, okay, and then we have to go and tell them now to download other devices. If we have the devices in quantity, we could have firstly download what we want and what we think is important for them to use on online teaching, or because we have purchased Microsoft Teams platform. And you know, with Microsoft Teams, there are different apps that comes with Microsoft Teams. Okay, so we could have done that instead of we have to go do trials. Okay, done that, so it would have make our life easier. Even Microsoft PowerPoint, because there's some interactive apps that you can download in Microsoft PowerPoint where you can actually see the kids them writing. You're doing your presentation, but they're actually writing on the presentation, which is very interactive.
Wonderful. And
okay,
yes, I quite agree with everything that you just said. We did not get that opportunity to really evaluate what is it we're going to do with the device and how teachers can use the device to interact with everything else.
Stop again. You shoot yourself there. Stop again. Why say you're shooting yourself there, right? We know. I mean, okay, I will carry you back in history. You could remember we had in St. Vincent the Migo.
I was not familiar with the Migo. I only heard about it. I was not wrong when it was about.
Right. So here we're going with that Migo. The Migo, it did not need any virus protection. Okay? If we had started the groundwork then, okay?
Okay.
To be honest with you, would have been 5 years ahead now. Okay, but we just decide now to just give them the device, okay, and let them use it in terms of teaching and learning, and then decide now to train teachers in using the devices and maybe the various apps that we can use. Just like what we're doing here now, which I applaud, which is good, because at least some persons are thinking, okay? So we really getting somewhere. But I am hurt in the sense that we should have done this months ago.
Okay.
Let me say months ago, segmented learning. St. Vincent have 5 parishes. Segmented learning. You understand me? 15 constituencies. Segmented learning. You see, you want to train teachers to be trainers of trainers. But you can simply, if it is segmentation, it would have been easy to reach teachers, and there's so much things you could have done. Because I'm into IT, tell you honest truth. I love to use IT in my classroom. Okay? And the kids are motivated to use the IT. It's like when I'm doing online teaching, and if you're not familiar with the technology, okay, some kids will be playing games. Even if they don't have the camera on, and you're familiar with the technology, you could know whether or not they on you.
Definitely.
You understand where I come from?
Definitely.
So, but I applaud the initiative, tell you honest truth, I applaud it. But I'm just saying, I said it didn't come earlier on. But we're here now.
Okay. I
Okay,
appreciate
we are
it.
here now. Because look, for example, the Microsoft Teams. My kids are still having issues logging on to Microsoft Teams. They give me password, all kind of thing. But the gateway to Microsoft is so loaded. You understand where I come from? Most
hear
of the
you.
time you get fallouts, you get you get stoppages, okay? And then you have to reconnect because it is so loaded.
Okay. I understand you. I understand you. I understand you.
Okay?
I understand
But again,
you.
I applaud this. To be honest with you, I applaud it. And I just sorry that we didn't have it. We had something similar to this, but you should have gone in depth and think about 10 years in the future instead of now.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yes,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Oliver.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Mr. Olivier really reiterates some of the things that we coming up. We teach, and I think that sentiment is coming out as well because teachers, you're saying that sometimes you don't know what's going on the different devices. You don't know how the application working on your laptop working on the different devices. That is why I mentioned earlier as well that we had to purchase devices and see how they work so that we can inform our teacher. When a child is saying they can't see something, you have to ask questions like this. You have to ask questions. So you actually have to train the teachers to find out what is the really issue. What kind of device they have. Okay. Based on that device, what kind of software they're running. Based on that software, what other things they are doing. Because based on the device, you could know what is working, what is not working, and how you could better suit that child. What application would not work. All right, so I don't want to hold you much longer. I don't know if I bore anybody. So I just want to I just round it up in a few minutes here. So we have, as Mr. Olivier just brought to light, we have the 3 most popular applications that is being used in St. Vincent for online classes. Google Meet, Microsoft, and Zoom. Each of them have their pros and their cons. All right, each of them. And each of them operate differently based on the device that the children are using. All right. Google Meet will not work on any Kindle. And if it does work, it's going to give you hell to work. So sometimes you hear parents say, oh, the tablet not working, but we leave the conversation there. We're not asking what kind of tablet is it? We're not asking what kind of browser is it? What kind of browser you're using on the tablet? What else you have on the tablet? Okay, so you need to have those kind of conversations, and those are just training from a whole different level. And then you have the Microsoft Teams. Now the Microsoft Teams, I used it a few times, and personally, it was a little bit too much for me. I couldn't deal with that, so we went a different direction as a school. But I understand the pain that some teachers are having. And what the simple idea of resetting a password is so tedious that you lose a lot of children, and we didn't want that. So we put Microsoft Teams on the back burner. But the way Teams work on your computer is completely different than the way Teams work on a child tablet or phone. And remember I show you the statistics. The 2 highest devices using right now is the tablets and the phone. So you have to understand how they work on the tablets so that you could direct the students if something happened. Zoom is a little bit different and it's more widely used. And to be honest, if I had the 3 of them to choose from, I will be using Zoom, even if it's the free one, because Zoom has something vital that the others at the free level does not have, and that is a recording. All right, so we most advise us to even with 40 minutes, you record the class, because again, we're catering for the different device. Maybe at that time the child is unable to connect to the class. So you want to tell me the child is connecting to the class and they completely lose the whole lesson because we are unable to give that child a way to access content after the class is finished. So Zoom would have been the one of choice just because the free versions allow you to record, even if speaker of just 40 minutes, because you could give it back to the child. You don't want to reteach again, and you could find yourself in a constant loop, reteaching and reteaching and reteaching. So Zoom would have been my choice if I was supposed to, and it is still my choice as we move forward. All right. Now, this is why I say why I choose this particular application.
Before you go on, could I interrupt a bit? I had my hand up, but
oh, sorry, I didn't see
it.
it. Yes, Miss G, sorry.
Microsoft Team is also giving you permission to record, because we record most of our lessons and we post them there, and the students are able to go back and reflect during their offline time or off teaching time. So Microsoft Team also gives you that opportunity to record
as well. Okay, good. I submit to correction.
I'm studying today that they also have a breakout room as Zoom does. So I've never really checked it, but I was looking on some research on it, and they also have a breakout room as Zoom has.
Okay, I appreciate that, because remember I mentioned that I don't really use Zoom too much, so too much was going on for me. I just couldn't handle it. But glad that you get that update, and everyone is able to get that update as well. All right. And I'm just gonna share why Zoom is my choice at the time, based on the information, just because of the limited information on Teams. It's allowed for recording, it's free. It adjusts well for unstable internet connection. It is very rare, very, very rare, that child internet connection has to be completely terrible, real terrible, for Zoom to drop a child from the classroom. All right, so it adjusts well. I normally describe, some of my colleagues and I normally describe Zoom. Zoom was really and truly, I think it was designed for quote unquote developing countries, because no matter how terrible the internet is, you will see a message come up and say your internet is unstable, but it will not drop you immediately. It does not drop you as much. So that is why I'm kind of gearing towards Zoom. And it runs smoothly on almost all devices, right? It runs smoothly on all devices. The only issue sometimes with Zoom, you have to manage Zoom properly and manage the settings properly. Otherwise, you could be exposing a lot of information to the outside world. So I want to end there. And say, I hope what I've shared was some benefit to you as teachers and colleagues, and the knowledge that was given back and the feedback from the few persons who taught back, I really appreciate it. I don't know, I would like to open to a few questions or concerns and comments. I have no problem with that. I have the floor open. Please go ahead, take the floor. Any questions?
Okay, I have one. As it relates to bandwidth, I'm not sure if you would be able to explain how showing videos, and if a person is in class and mics are open without permission from the teacher, how does that relate to bandwidth, or does it relate to bandwidth?
Yes, it does. And let me explain that to you. Now, okay, let me explain this to you as in layman terms. And I want to make apologies right now if anybody is inside here. And if you could correct me, I am open to correction. I want to say that now. Let me tell you how the internet works here in St. Vincent. So think of, all of us have pipe going to our house. That is the best example I could find. All of us have the government pipe going to our house, running water, and whatever the case may be. Now, the thing is, if you is one of the person in your village who living at the top of the hill and the pipe coming to your house, and everybody is at home and everybody watching movie, everybody washing their hands, everybody washing their cars, and everybody, what else? They're doing the dishes and everything like that. And you're at the top of the hill. Be sure that the water coming to your house gonna be trickling. You understand that analogy, Miss G?
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay, good. Now, it's the same with the internet. The same with the bandwidth. The bandwidth is that big pipe that come in that run through your village, but everybody is connected to it. So if all the children at home, if all of the children at home and everybody is online, you will see, and I think most of you will identify it. Most at St. Martin's, we see it a lot because our classes start around 8:45, right? 8:45, all our teachers are running smoothly, everything is good until 9:15. 9:15, guess what happened at 9:15? Miss G, you could tell me, anybody could tell me what happened at 9:15?
Probably almost students would have already been logged in from elsewhere.
Exactly. Every other body, our schools logging now. And by everybody logging in at that time, the bandwidth or the pipe has to share. So now that will cause you now to get a lag at your home and to reduce that, because streaming videos while you're teaching, like your camera is on, that gonna require a certain amount of, let's say, pipe, a certain amount of pipe for it to run smoothly. So that is why at school we advise our teachers to get things run smoothly, take off, don't stream your camera, don't use the camera unless absolutely necessary. So your voice alone, the mic alone, sometimes use the mic alone to teach, like how I'm speaking to you and not showing the camera, because the running the camera and the audio at the same time at the peak hours, you're gonna have some problems. A matter of fact, your whole computer sometimes depends on the package you have, your whole browser will freeze up sometimes. So bandwidth is that big pipe that come to your house, and everybody have to feed off of that before it reach you, wherever you're living. And in doing that, by adding your camera, streaming your camera, it's gonna take more from you when the others below doing the same thing. So you sometime up there, your computer, your browser freezing up, the children dropping off, you dropping out, your audio breaking up. You have to know you have to look at the time of the day, which is peak time, which is around 9:15 up to like about 10. Primary schools, I think, get off around 1 or 2 because things free up for us a lot of the time around that time. So I could subject to correction because some of our time schedule right up to 3. So we notice that after 2, 3, or 2 going to 3, or 1 going to 3, things are running smooth, and we assume that is when primary school closed down. Yes, Holder? Wait, before Miss Holder, Miss G, did I answer your question? Did I?
Yes, you did answer my question. I'm now able to understand it better. So probably we could encourage teachers when you're teaching, we could share cameras when we have something to show to the children or illustrate to the children.
But it don't have to be an everyday thing.
No, and when we're sharing our screen, we don't have to really share our camera because they're focused on the screen like how you're doing it here.
Yes.
So we must be mindful that we don't replace our teaching or explicit instruction with videos because children need feedback. So you don't show videos. Children need to hear and probably use a PowerPoint, and you give explicit instruction and interact. Then video. We must not let video replace our instructional time with our students. That's just what I want to share. Thanks.
Wonderful. Miss Holder?
Good night. A few weeks back, we had a little workshop showing us how to use certain apps in our teaching instructions. However, these apps require students to download them, right? And while downloading, you have to put in your credentials like your email address and password, which I find could be a lot troublesome for children. Also, takes up a lot of space on their devices. I am wondering if there could be a workshop, because I know there can be certain PowerPoint add-ons or add-ins that you can use. Children won't have to download anything, but they can do like live quiz and games and all those stuff. Still, teachers can still use whiteboards and stuff. Can or would there be a workshop or training program for teachers showing them how they can do these things in PowerPoint, because PowerPoint can do so much more So I'm wondering if there would be anything to that sort where teachers would be trained as to how to use PowerPoint, how to use these add-ins to make their teaching experience a bit more exciting and less troublesome with all these apps.
Okay, I think the next session that I'm scheduled for take care of that. Okay, I think there's one on the 14th that I'm not sure if it's data time, but one on the 14th. I think it's scheduled for that time. I think that is where I'll be gearing at. But remember now, as we mentioned, these app and so forth, you have to make sure, remember that the student devices that you know is out there that can handle this stuff. I see I see some message here in the chat here. However, the feature, the only thing is that besides unlimited communication to get other, you can purchase the feature that suits you. Okay. Miss G comes in. The camera will be dependent on the grade. Wonderful. I'm just reading the public chat here, and then Rohan, it depends on the grade, but when you are sharing screen, you can also not use the camera at some point. When I view, okay, yes. The camera do take up a lot of feeding. Yes, I
that's
think,
me
Mr.
again.
Olivier, yes.
Yeah, and I'm Rohan. Yeah. Okay, no, I was something just dawned on me, right? And because you see, you have another session around the 14th of November?
Yes, I think that's the time, yes.
That's close to when school about to close.
I'm not too sure the date, I just called it, but I just the 14th just stick in my head. I don't know why.
I know. And this draws back again to my point again, because I just saw the caller calling about if the possibility of you folks having a session how we can use the apps in, like, for example, PowerPoint to make it more interactive. And then the speaker before you mentioned about, oh, we cannot use PowerPoint to replace our direct contact. And then you stated that if you use the camera again,
it's video.
Burn up. I'm making up video. You're going to burn up. Okay, that is why. Okay, and if you look at the tablet now, the tablet have certain restrictions because at a particular point, when you download several apps, you're talking about memory, right? Am I correct? You're talking about storage. You're talking about internal storage. Am I correct?
Yes, that the second speaker mentioned about instead of downloading this stuff to help preserve some of the storage and so forth, if there's other things we can use, yes.
Right. Okay. But hey, again, I applaud the effort, but if we fast track certain activities, it will be better for us in the teaching profession as well as the students who are actually learning. Like, for example, let me give a down-to-earth example. We started online teaching and we have grade K. Okay?
Yes, I'm with you.
Students who are just coming into primary school. They are not familiar with the devices plus the apps.
Right.
Plus, we are going to depend on parents' devices most of the time.
Right.
Plus, again, most of the parents are working.
Right.
So which means our regular classroom time would have about 2 or 3 students in kindergarten. Let me put it that way. I'm talking reality now. Okay?
Yes, go ahead.
So you're talking about shifting maybe classes to after work for kindergarten, if that is possible, if the teachers can manage that. Okay? But
okay.
What I do hope that after this session tonight, with all of the input that you get, you can then formulate some suggestive ideas as to how we can make this online teaching more effective. Whether we go face-to-face, we can still do online. Whether we go blended, we still have to do online. But how can we make it more effective? Because to be honest with you, I've sat down and listened to some classes. You did not see teacher face. There's a teacher's a talk, and you could do it whatsoever you feel like.
Okay. I got you. Understand that for sure.
I'm telling you, honestly, I'm telling you.
So
you have to look now at maybe creative or interactive ways so we can make this online teaching more efficient or effective. Okay.
Rohan,
I applaud it.
just to say a bit, Rohan, even though sometimes, seeing some of the teacher faces, I think we are in the Caribbean, we are afraid to show our faces. Some of the classes, they don't see the teacher faces. They don't even see a PowerPoint, and there's not even a recording for offline where the student is not synchronous with the teacher and can still log in and still gain information. So everybody is not on par as it relates to communicating to the learners. Some don't show the camera, some don't do recordings, some don't even share PowerPoint, they just talk. So we need to be on the same path, and we are not.
And you're correct. You're correct. No, you're correct. I agree with you 160 or 199.9%. I agree with you.
Because I understand you. If I'm seeing this screen, what is the best? What is this on my screen here? Let me move this. What is the best Zoom? And I'm peeping into this. I'm not seeing our facilitator here, but I'm staring into the screen for a long time, and then I can get eye strain. I'm not seeing okay. I would say it's not teacher friendly.
Teacher student friendly, right?
Yeah.
Students, yeah, right,
So
right.
It's the absence of teaching present, social present, and cognitive present, because you're really just relating to a screen. Is like the computer talking to you.
So they go and play PUBG. They go and play PUBG and even banner for you.
And that's why we encourage the students to share their cameras. Because sometimes teachers are talking and the children gone in the kitchen. Some of them you're calling them and they're not there.
You're correct, my dear. You're correct, and I agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think
would we ever go back to normal? This is our normalcy. We will never go back to normal. This is our normalcy right here.
And that's the thing. Other thing that I understand. I was going to show my camera in the beginning, but we went straight into it. But what is happening? I clearly have an idea of what is it you're talking about, and I want to say, and I would like to say, and this is, I think this is a personal opinion of mine. I would like to say, one of the things that I will be sharing with you in the next session, you have to know and put some emphasis in the planning of your ICT class from the very beginning to the very end, where you have to capture the students' attention and make them want to come to the class. And I will share with you some of the things that we use, or some of the things that we implemented that you can use with your students to make them, at least, if not all of them, something for them to be interested in. So I will be putting together some of the different activities and applications that we use, and they're very teacher friendly, easy to learn, and then you can use them at your school as well. You could use them among your class, even for the young ones as well. That would be okay. Because in the online, you have to use all the resources available to keep that child attention. And the more that child voluntarily want to be in the class because of what you're using and what you're doing, the easier your job is, the easier your frustration is. Okay, so I will be sharing some of that with you. And I understand I understand the request from Mr. Olivier, and I understand Miss G. Okay.
But you see, sir, would we ever reach all our students? Because when we're asking questions, most often the students that raise their hands are the ones who know, not realizing that that's their child in the corner there, that's another child with her grandmother who doesn't really know what is really going on. So the assistance is not there. There's this other one with her mom that has been probing her the answers.
Right,
so when we ever reach each child, and we realize when we ask questions, we aim to those who have their hand raised, but there are those students who didn't raise their hand because they just don't know.
Yes, and you're correct. There will be that circumstances always where, the ideal situation is not at home for them to get the support and push they need now that we're in this kind of situation. But we still have to try and see what can happen.
But Mr. Gums.
Yes, sir.
Again, maybe I could add something to that too. The similar of talk plenty of me ready, but the thing is nice. Discussion is nice. It will be dependent on the teacher's approach. Again, you say you have some ideas as how we can engage the students, and you're going to do a session on that. Okay, so whether or not that you getting feedback from kids who know, it is how you go about using the platform and how you go about maybe asking for responses.
So
So
okay,
if we plan it properly, we could make those corrections.
okay. Bear with me here.
Is
Mr.
that Rohan?
Yeah, this is Rohan
speaking. Well,
yes.
Rohan, the Ministry of Education through the curriculum unit is presently having an ICT program to tell us about ICT, and that would start on the 1st of November. Didn't you register for that one?
But of course, but here is sweet. Of course I did. But here is sweetest thing now. I've been home for a while. That should have been done before I even start the new school year.
Well, just
but
engage it now. Well, just be thankful.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So it come like I'm doing on the job training, which is no problem still.
Yeah, no problem.
I understand that. I understand it. I already started. No problem.
Okay.
I did that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay.
The other thing that I would like to do, what I would like to suggest, Rohan, because I know you're mentioning things like, planning and teacher approach and so forth. I really want to empathize with teachers that it has been a bit rough for us. And I don't want to, I would like to present the training that we will be doing later on based on what the credit union is doing, without really too much pointing finger on teachers and what we're doing. So that's the approach I would like to get, so that when person come, they don't feel like they're not doing their job. We don't want to go that route. It's just something to help enhance what you may be already doing and what you're already using. So when the workshop comes, you're not going to come thinking that, oh, I'm going to teach you how to do your lesson properly, or then kind of thing, or your approach is wrong, those kinds. No, what I'm going to show you is things that you can use maybe to enhance your classes, your class sessions. That is the approach I will be taking. I hope you understand. Yes, definitely. Okay, definitely. All right. If there is no more question, concerns, or suggestion, I see Mr. Ned. Yes, Ned, Mr. Ned.
Yes, mine is related to the difficulty that parents face with contacting the school, whether principal or teachers. There are sometimes concerns that parents need to have addressed, and sometimes there's absolutely no way, and it's to get in touch with someone at the school, and it's really frustrating. Sometimes you call, you get the secretary, and the secretary could only try to offer words of comfort. You have a child trying to get into a particular class, and it's frustrating. There's no link, and sometimes by the time that child gets through, he realizes that so many assignments. Yeah, class is finished, but there were assignments and they didn't get into the last two classes. And the child tried to contact the teacher and there's no response from the teacher, and so on. It's frustrating, because you would, as a parent, you would not want to have a child lagging behind, now looking lackadaisical to the teacher.
Okay. Now, here's one of the things, and I don't, please, what we share here, quoting outside, I don't want us to quote and say, oh, Mr. Gum said such and such. One of the things that I think we underestimated is the magnitude of the task of doing online that we dived into, or that we were thrown into. Right, because I have to say we were thrown into, and as Olivier would have mentioned, it's some more like, yes, we are doing on-the-job training, right? As we walk, we train, we get to understand, and we move and we implement and train. That is the way things are going, right? Right. So what some persons or one of the things that could have been implemented, and it could be done from the school's perspective, is create a simple IT team. I know some schools have gone as far as, and some schools might not have the resources to do it, but hire a little volunteer to call parents to find out what the difficulty is and those kind of stuff. Somebody, as you mentioned, Mr. Ned, to kind of make that connection between the parents technically and the school at the same time, or somebody who in the school that could further help. All right. Like, for example, you might have an individual who might say, okay, because we as teachers, we cannot really understand. We are not trained to deal with technical stuff. We might have one or two of the teachers in the school, like Mr. Oliver, whichever school he is in, might understand what an issue might be and be able to help out. But, you know, some people might say that is not my job. I'm just helping out. But in a case like that, for understanding the language, like how Miss Olive, I think was Miss G or Miss Seaton asked the difference between bandwidth and so forth. Like somebody will call and say, oh, my child is not getting on. What happened? My child is not getting on. Somebody need to be there to really break down what do you mean by the term not getting on. Is it they can't remember the username and password? Is it they're not connected to Wi-Fi? Is it they're not? Because that person will be instrumental in getting to the ground as to why that child is actually not getting on and report the true issue to get it resolved. And I think that kind of link is needed as well.
Very, very true, sir. Very true, Mr. Gomes. The other point I have is let me just turn this down. I'm in another meeting at the same time. Whereas the primary school children, they all use Microsoft Teams, and it's what they have been familiar with. And they get into secondary school now, and it's kind of it's kind of difficult that you have to meet friends that you have never seen or might have seen at an orientation, and they're not really friends, but you try to, you know, still be social in the online situation. But what I'm saying is that some schools use different platforms, and the students did not have any time to get oriented to the new platforms. And they had to jump into it. And parents who sometimes not the least savvy have to try to help the child navigate the new platform now to get into class, get their assignments, submit work. And it posed a challenge for some of the youngsters. And I just want teachers to be aware of those kind of things going forward.
Okay. I see. Thank you, Mr. Ned. Wonderful point. I see Leslie Tucker. Yes, Ms. Tucker.
Okay, good night, Mr. Gomes. Very informative session. We, at my school, we don't use Teams. I teach us at secondary school. We don't use Teams. So, but I know of Teams because my son used Teams, and I find that it's very hard to maneuver as a teacher, as a student, much less the parent. Concerning what we were discussing, helping online teaching, at our school, we have a network to say. One of the things we do every morning is that we have a form session. So the form teacher still have that rapport to an extent with the students. So we do devotions and we engage our students if they're having issues with anything. This is your avenue to express yourself. We also have a ICT committee that that a representative is from every department. So and then we have a series of avenues that the students, information is shared with the students. We have WhatsApp to the students, we have WhatsApp to the parents, we have emails, we have we try to engage all the different ways, Instagram, whatever that is there that we know that our children are using. So if they have an issue, we engage, we try to get them to get to us how they are comfortable so that we can help them to be comfortable with our system. We try as much, we still having some issues we did a lot of what you stated before, where we did reach out to the parents. We did send out the forms. Okay, baby, we sent out the forms to find out the level of competence and the level of accessibility our students would have going into the online platform. Again, as I stated before, we don't use Teams, we use Suite. Suite also, one of the advantages Suite offers also is that it offers a means of us engaging our parents with learning. So we can get our parents and reach out to them and say and touch base with them directly in the system, so we can get some feedback at least. So we are trying at our school, and there's still a long way to go, as one of the participants was stressing. I do agree that when we had the Moodle system, that we should have engaged in teaching persons about the use of the system. And even when the distribution of the tablets were given, there was no teaching per se of how to use the system, of how to take care of the tablets, of how to actually just day-to-day maintenance and how the children themselves, it was just a gadget, and a lot of them didn't last. So, and again, we are going through the system again, repeating the same things, where we are not teaching people how to basically take care of the devices. I don't know if teachers can do that in their system, in their individual environment, but one of the things we need to do is teach our children how to basically take care of the gadgets that they
Gadgets.
Yes,
All right,
thank you.
all right. I appreciate that. Also, I think what I hear coming out there as maybe a reference to what Mr. Ned would have mentioned is, I think the school have to, on its own, because I don't think we can depend on the ministry to do everything. I think the school on its own have to take some initiative of what they can use. And I see that Mr. Olivier is mentioning here, like, WhatsApp group, create those group, start open up all the possible channels. Facebook and Instagram is not out of the circle. Those can be used to get information out there. Those can be used as setup, putting things in place such as a simple phone, buy a cheap phone and let it be in the hand of a secretary or something that persons can call. But as I mentioned, in dealing with the ICT, there's a lot of groundwork that we needed to cover. Thanks for that, Ms. Tucker. Mrs. Simmons, been here from Simmons for the night, so I'm going to give her a little flow here, and then we'll come back. We wrap it up with Miss G and then Mr. Ned. Yes, Simmons?
Okay, good night to everyone.
Good night, good night.
I hadn't heard the very start of the discussion because I was previously engaged in something. But my concerns are mainly about 2 or 3 of them. However, before I say such, I would like to really say that I appreciate this kind of discussion, which is a means by which we can develop and we all get to know the problems that we are facing in different areas. Now, I'm at a technical institute, and working with adults there, I find it even as challenging as working with the kindergarten and the primary and secondary school students. At the Technical Institute, I'm really, really surprised that there are adults and some of the simple maneuvering of the apps. For example, even if you send documents on WhatsApp to them, to open that document on their phone and to be able to make adjustments to that document and send it to you as an instructor is very challenging for them. And what it has helped me to realize here is that if these young adults who we believe spend so much time on Facebook and on WhatsApp and on these other platforms, find it so difficult to do something constructive on their device, now we got to think about the students who are at a much lower level. Think about the students who are in grade 4, grade 3, grade 2. They're also going to have major issues. And so it brings me to another issue that I see. And it pains me, and I think Mr. Ned touched on this to some extent. There are some parents, some families where both parents are out at work all day. And these children are left at home with grandparents, or maybe your uncle or auntie or whosoever. These persons themselves are not into computers, they're not into tablets. They basically have no idea even how to log on and log off. And these children, sometimes you see them sitting there and they basically don't know what to do. They don't know how to follow along. They don't have any guidance. And I think it is an area that we need to put some emphasis in. If we can have some app or something that is much easier to maneuver than even using Zoom. Because from what I see on Zoom, if the students drop out, depending on how their system is set, they cannot relog in or they cannot get back in. I've seen it with team also. Sometimes students are sitting there, these young children are sitting there, and if the screen change, if the teacher doesn't control the whole setting of the team, somebody press something on their computer and the others are totally lost in class. And so I really appreciate this discussion, but I would like to see if we can really find a way to keep these young ones engaged and find a way to educate even the adults who we think we have at the technical level in the use of the basic apps like Word documents and so forth.
Okay. Okay, got you. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Thank you, there. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. All right. Then we get Miss G, and then Miss Tucker. You have a new question, or your hand just up again?
Sorry, I didn't take down my hand. Sorry.
Okay. And Mr. Ned, is this a new question or a new situation, or your hand just didn't take it down? Okay. So we'll have Miss G, and then I will take Mr. Ned. Yes, Miss G.
Okay, good night again. Mr. Gomes, I heard a parent or a teacher saying that when they call the school, the secretary would answer and not getting in touch with the principal.
Yeah.
As it relates to that, that's why we have the WhatsApp group. So we put the parents to our WhatsApp chat with the names of the children, and then we're able to collaborate. So we're going to pick up uniforms today. We are going to have laptop sharing at the school today. So pass, and the communication goes from WhatsApp to the parent quickly.
Right.
Next again to the IT and the whole laptop scenario and learning online came to us, well, because of COVID-19.
Right.
Some of us were met with no knowledge at all, no computer knowledge. And it's like first time information given is going to a class and you're learning something for the first time. It becomes a scary moment because you don't know. But with practice and with time, you will get it. Zoom, it's not too hard to use. And I was now getting accustomed to Team. I had to learn Team for myself. And because I had a previous IT knowledge, I was able to use that to maneuver Microsoft Team. It was a bit scary for me knowing it for the first time, but I was able to put my mind to it and learn. I know some of the teachers, because they are not savvy, they refuse this whole thing and they blanket out their mind and they don't want to teach using it. And we are doing it for our students, therefore we have to make the effort. So can't, should not be in our vocabulary when it comes to that. Another thing too I want to say is that the accountability of parents. Parents, some of them, they are not accountable. And as it relates to their children learning, I remember contacting a parent. I sent so many messages asking for the parent to give in the login information and password, call, no one respond by answering the phone. And then when I finally got in touch with the child's parent, this is what the gentleman is telling me. He busy. How could you be busy for your children? So he's letting me know that he busy. So up to now, he hasn't even, he responded yes, but not in any interest to say to help his own child, and that child has not been in the class. About out of 16 students, 8 has not been in the class because they don't have the gadgets. Some would have got my number and they got on my number and they were able to let me know they didn't have these devices, and they heard that they are sharing them away. And I said, soon as the principal give us information, I will let them know, because we have a WhatsApp chat. So parents need to be accountable. We need to have the Ministry of Education to need to do something to let these parents be accountable. Not only that, they come to class and they're letting you know that their laptops miss 1 minute. 1 minute and the laptop going to turn off. No, if in the night you have current, I know some of the parents, they might not have electricity at home. Ensure that your child tablets is 100%. We cannot afford to have our children. We are parents. God entrusted children to us, not us to children. So we should ensure that these gadgets are charged in the night. They are not touched when it comes to 8:30 or whenever the child has to go to bed. See that the child doesn't go back to the laptop or the tablet. We must be accountable to our children, and we must be assertive. As we have children ruling parents, and I remember last term a parent came to my class asking if the child dropped sleep. I said, why you ask that? The child set up, go back to tablet, and up all 12 o'clock in the night. We need to let children know that they are parents, even if we have to give them a licking if they don't hear. Sorry to say about licking on here, because you know people don't want you to beat children anymore, but there are times the Bible says you have to give them a little flogging to get their attention, as we will lose our children to the wall. And a person was talking about the gadgets and they're not familiar with. I sat here and I said to myself, familiar with, teach them what? You know, I'm becoming victim of my own slogan, and I say, teach them what? I see my children play Roblox. I see another children at a center that I was working, download a app on his new Samsung in order to get the volume to be a little louder. And that young child was able to show me that I was able to put it on my Samsung. So when it comes to learning, I don't think they are passionate, so they don't learn the app. But if it's some Roblox, if it's some other game, these children catch on quickly. So if they're really serious about their education, they really would grasp without even we telling them. That's just what I had to share tonight. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And lastly, before we go, I just want to mention, the conversation was very healthy. I'm glad that I was able to share. But while we were like, I wanted to emphasize a bit. While you want parents to really take the lead on stuff, I want us to some point tread a little bit softly in that arena. The reason why I see Rohan mentioned the parental issues here. Rohan, don't start back up, please, because we're going to close now. I want us to tread carefully, because the COVID also opens up and shows, I mean, this is off point, but it shows sometimes the standard of living of some of our families and some of the children coming to our schools. It shows the level, I want to say, of poverty that is still in our country. So when that parent might tell you that he's busy, it might not come across, I'm just saying, it might not come across as the answer that you will like to hear. But in that parent's eyesight, there might be a high possibility if he don't get to work, they don't get food to eat. That is how it is sometimes, and it has been getting worse recently. So as we progress and we start to put some pressure, we know that there are situations, there's broken families out there, and there will always be. But we need to see how best, as you say, how we can reach a point in the most humane way that we possibly can, because of the amount of challenges that some parents have at home. We could point hand every way we can. But I want some persons to know that sometimes if a child don't come to school, they don't get something to eat. If a child don't come to school, they don't get to meet, they don't come in an environment where they are supportive. because sometimes at home is not really the best because of maybe the living condition. So when we start to point on fingers at parents and so forth, give them a soft hand, because sometimes they are dealing with a lot of issues as well that we might be taking for granted. Okay, so teachers, I want to thank you for having me here, having me to share this information. I hope I made sense. I hope I made sense. And I hope that you take away some information from here to go back to your school. And we are all in this together. And I think we could try our best. The only thing that we can do is try our best. I always say, if I give up and something went wrong, I will feel bad about it. But if I try my utmost best, everything within my authority and power and resources to help the child, and it still goes wrong, I can say, okay, I did my best. I might even look and see what else I could have done. But we are all in this together, and I'm hoping that as we share our information, as we share discussion, that we can help each other and make it forward as we move along. I don't know if the host is still there. If the host is still there, is the host still there?
Yes, Mr. Gums, thank you very much for your presentation. It was very enlightening and interactional. Want to encourage participants to join us again in our next session. I'm certain there you will be, Mr. Gums, delivering an effective ICT inclusive lesson. We have other sessions that will be coming up, coping with ICT or online learning when you can't get online, and getting the most out of Microsoft Teams. We want to thank all of our participants who are here tonight, and really thank those who really stood out in the conversation. It was a great session indeed, Mr. Olivier. So thank you very much, everyone, and see you in our next session. Delivering an effective ICT inclusive lesson.